Welcome to Small Arm Solutions. Today we're looking at a rather interesting retro piece of equipment. What we have here is a LSW upper receiver that's manufactured by Retro Arms. Now, Retro Arms is a company that specializes in retro M16A1 upper receivers and different types of receivers. And what you see here, the brand new LSW. Now let's go back a little bit of information on the LSW. In the early 1980s, Colt Hank Tatro did some work on development of a Colt light machine gun, open bolt light machine gun, where he got some patents, and that patent was the trigger mechanism, which was an open bolt. However, at that time is when Colt Strike went down. Well, unfortunately, when Colt Strike went down, there's a lot of projects that Colt had going that the engineers could not get going because they didn't have people because of the strike. At that same time, a gentleman named Ian Anderson and another gentleman from Colt Canada, at that time it was Tobacco. So Tobacco came down, and Tobacco looked at this project and said, "This is something I think we can take care of. We can do." So all the information, all the drawings, all the prints, everything went up to Canada. Well, next thing you know, Tobacco popped out the LMG. Now, the original LMG, as you're going to see from the photographs, was a A2 type carrying handle. It was a extremely heavy barrel. It had a hydraulic buffer, and it was just a pussycat to shoot. It had like a 600-700 round, just constant purring cyclic rate. And Tobacco had gone on to sell some of the, at the time, Colt's Defense, in early Colt's Industries, they really never had any luck selling the LMG. However, Canada, because of some of the customers they work with, they did. They had the Danes, they had the Dutch who were interested in them. However, when the Danes and the Dutch got a hold of them, they did not like the open bolt mechanism. There was an issue with safety. If you were to smash the stock on the ground, the hammer could release and let the thing go open bolt and go full auto on you. Probably only one or two shots, but again, it was not safe. So instead of going with the open bolt mechanism, they went with a standard safe semi-auto closed bolt. Now, what did that do? That gave additional accuracy and safety to the mechanism. So basically all they changed was the fire control group, and at that time they got rid of the carrying handle and went to the flat top upper receiver. And at that time it was also the Tobacco or Canadian Weaver rail. And it had gone on, again, it sold in very, very limited numbers. Colt Defense, Colt's Manufacturing, they had occasionally put it into some RFQs. There was one for the Marine Corps for a light machine gun a while back that they entered it into, but it just never really went anywhere. So the gun just sort of went by the wayside. It was no longer put in any of the catalogs. It was just done. However, ever since Colt lost its contract, a whole bunch of the prototype parts has found their way out. And there's a lot of upper receivers, LMG upper receivers that have gone for mega bucks. We're looking at $5,000-$6,000 for an original Colt upper receiver LMG. However, these parts were all made in Canada. If you would have an original one, you look at the barrel, it would be a Colt Hammer forged barrel with the Tobacco marks on it. So it was a Colt Hammer forged barrel. The bolt carrier was always made by Tobacco as well. Sometimes you would see Colt C on it or an NPC carrier, but most of the time you saw the DevTech D with their batch number, the DMP, and then the batch code. So those went for a lot of bucks. So Retro Arms had come across some of these parts for this thing. And the gentleman who owns the company gave me a call and asked me if I could give him some assistance on get the background of the gun, because he wanted to make a clone that was very, very similar. So we went over some stuff, and next thing you know, here we have it. Now, many of you purists are going to say, well, it's not exactly right. Well, it can't be exactly right for many reasons. To keep his price down, there were some things that had to change. For instance, the barrel. The barrel, we're going to take apart underneath. You'll see it is an extremely heavy barrel, but when you get up here, it's the same diameter as the standard M16A2. Reason for that was the Colt LMG or the Tobacco LSW utilized a special front sight base because the barrel was extremely heavy. In order to produce that as a forging and to reproduce the barrel in that format would have been significantly expensive. You would be looking at a $3,000 or $4,000 upper receiver to get that exact. Same thing with the gas tube. As we're going to see, this is a standard gas tube. The original LMG had a straight, very thick gas tube, and that was another part. Then you look down to the bottom here. The original one had just a basic grip on here. Some of them had a folding type bipod, and some of them had one that came off of the bottom here. There's a couple different kinds. And again, to do that, the cost would be astronomical. So what he did was he wanted to look at a way to make this as authentic as possible, but in a realistic price. Because again, if you were to do exactly, you may as well go out and buy an original one, because of the cost it would be to do the tooling for that. You'd literally have to be making thousands and thousands of these. And at this time, it's a boutique type item. So, it's not something you want to invest in. but this gets you really, really close. So what we're going to look at is we're going to take a look at the barrel. Again, we're using a Magpul D60 on here because, again, this was designed to be selective fire. Now, the other thing that he did recreate was the Dimaco Triad, which is the part you see right here. This attached to the barrel, and again, this predates flat top upper receivers. This was back in the really early days of the C7. They didn't have the big rails like they do now, but this is one of the things that Colt Canada or Dimaco offered was this here. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this so we can take a look at the barrel. They did a very good job on recreating this piece right here as well. These are one of those parts. It's a ghost here in the United States. So basically, we're going to pull the handguard off the same way we normally would. And as you see here, we have an extremely heavy barrel on the bottom here. Then it gets thinner up here, so you can use a standard front sight base. This actually is pretty discolored because when I went out and I shot this thing, we got it hot. We probably fired at least two 60-round drum magazines and probably 4 or 5 six stick magazines, and it was pretty much mostly rapid fire because, again, that's what this was designed for. But you have the original component up here for use with these handguards. Now, of course, this was changing. The original one, this was drilled in pin, and it was basically a yoke that came down, and there was a yoke over here. But basically, I think today, having a 1913 rail on the bottom and attaching a grip pod is a lot better than the original options that you had. So as we can see what it looks like here. So we're putting that back on. I'm going to go ahead and put the Triad back on. Again, these are parts that, if you ever see them in America, they're very, very rare. Unfortunately, they never imported any Dimaco parts. And the reason being, Colt Defense, Colt's Manufacturing, whoever it was at the time, they did not want the competition. Because, quite frankly, Dimaco would have been competition because they offered the Colt Hammer Forged barrels. They offered the flat top upper receiver first. So they were pretty much cutting edge. So basically, Dimaco split some of the market up with Colt, so Dimaco would take care of much of the Scandinavia area, the Netherlands, Denmark, and they got a contract for the British SAS. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take this out and see how it works. This has an MSRP of about $1,100. Now, considering what the original one would be, you were literally looking at probably $3,000 to $4,000. So for what you're getting at a very, very good price, you're getting a very good rendition of the original LMG or LSW. This thing worked flawless. As you could see, we shot nothing but rapid with it. And those of you guys who do like more of the retro stuff, give Retro Arms a look. Because again, you're seeing M16A1 type upper receivers. You're seeing a lot of the upper receivers that are obsolete. You're seeing some M16A1s and some of the total slab side. You're seeing some of the barrels. So give those guys a look. So we hope you do like this video. If you do, please click like, please subscribe, and even better, share.